Alright, what's up everybody? Mr. Porkchop back here with another video. Today's video is going to be a great video, and we're going to be basically going over a problem where you have two strings and you want to find out what the longest common substring is inside those two strings. So we are going to solve that problem hopefully today, but also I just wanted to say thank you guys for watching my videos and continue to subscribe. As you can see right here, I am actually up to 100 subscribers, over 100 subscribers now, so that's awesome. Thank you guys so much. So yeah, after now we'll just go ahead and get into this video. So I'm going to be using IntelliJ again because I just really like IntelliJ, and we are going to, this is what I did last time, so we're just going to close this out. I think what I'll do is I'll probably just open, instead I'll keep this project and I'm just going to open, create a new file. So inside of here, we'll just go and we'll click on a new Python file. And we'll just call this uh, all right. So yeah, we'll just do the longest common substring. And so the way that this kind of works, actually, let me pause this real quick, and I'm going to show you guys kind of what we're going to be trying to do. Um, Sorry, bear with me here. Okay, sorry about that. So, as you can see, this is a diagram that I kind of just stole from my algorithms um, class. Basically, right now I'm going through data structures and algorithms 2 at WGU, and I stole this little. I just kind of snagged this diagram out of their book. Hopefully, they don't mind me showing you guys this. Zybooks is actually like a software, I guess, that they use, and that's basically how I view my course book. If any of you guys are actually looking for a college to go to, I definitely, and I don't know, there's some prerequisites you got to hit if you actually want to go to WGU, but for me, I already had an associate's degree, so it was very easy for me to get in there, and they just provide such awesome flexibility for people that are working full time and trying to get their degree in either computer science or different uh, IT fields. So yeah, check it out. But anyway, this is basically what we're trying to create. We're going to be creating a matrix, and we're going to set our matrix up basically as a matrix of all zeros with the rows and columns corresponding to the length of our first and second string that we pass to our function. These letters up here are just basically like the strings that the example my book gave. We're going to use some different strings. These letters actually aren't going to be in the problem, in the matrix anyway. They're not actually going to be inside the matrix. The matrix is all just going to be zeros, and then we're going to basically compare our strings, and every time there's a match, we'll put a 1, and we'll put a 1 plus whatever the top left box is. So in this case, it would be 1 plus 0, which is 1. And then we found another match here. So it's 1 plus whatever's up here, which is going to be 2. And then over here, they found another match. So it's going to be 1 plus what the upper left is, which is 3. And then eventually, it'll print you out the string. Using these numbers here, it's basically going to find out what the longest common substring. So when you can see inside of these, with these two strings, OOK is going to be the longest common substring, and that's kind of how it figured it out. So I just want to give that as a visual before we start, and it's going to make it a little bit clearer for you guys to understand what we're trying to do. All right, so with that being said, we're going to start by trying to define our function, which is going to be obviously the longest common substring. And we are going to pass two parameters, or two arguments, whatever you want to call it. I forgot the actual definitions between the two, but we're going to call them parameters. And the first one is going to be a first string, and then the other one will just be our second string. All right, and then After that, we're going to want basically a matrix to hold all those numbers for us. Um, so we're just going to call this matrix, and our matrix is going to be set equal to a list, just an empty list right now. We don't need anything else. And then we're going to fill that list. Yeah, we're going to basically, well, I'll show you. We're going to set up a little for loop here, and our for loop is just going to say for I in range of the length of our first string. So we're going to have our first string there, and for every character in our first string, we're going to loop through this, and it's going to basically amend to our matrix a 0 times whatever the length of our second string is. All right. Okay, so anyway, we have our matrix here, and we're filling up our matrix with just zeros. And then once we have our matrix all filled up with our zeros, we're going to basically come down and we're going to want to add a few variables to kind of hold our max, hold those basically numbers that are going to keep track of our longest string. So one thing we are going to need is basically our max value. So the maximum number that we get, max number, and that we're just going to set to 0 for now. And then we're also going to want the row that number is in. So we'll just say like number row. And again, we'll initialize all these to just 0 for now. And then we'll do number column. You can probably just shorten that to column. And we'll initialize that to 0 as well. So that'll be basically our variables to kind of keep track of the numbers in our matrices, or in our matrix, so that we can figure out where the highest number is and then print out that substring. So now we're going to do another for loop. This for loop is going to basically set up rows and columns in range again of our first, the length of our first and second strings. So we have here, and then below that we'll have the columns. And if you've ever done any kind of navigation through a matrix, you're going to kind of, this is going to look familiar to you. You're always going to have basically it going through the rows and then the columns in order to kind of navigate through it. And then this is going to be our second string. Now, as it loops through the rows, we're not really going to do much, but when we go through the columns, that's when we're going to check basically our string and check for matching matching values. So for this, we'll kind of set up an if statement. We're just going to do if our first string, and then we want to take the index of our row, and then if that is equal to the second string and the column, then we are going to basically try to set our values in our matrix to reflect that row of the first string and that column of the second string match, and we want to add a 1 plus whatever the top left is. So inside of here, we're just going to do, yeah, we'll do like upper left, and we'll set that to 0 for now. And then we'll do another if statement that just says if our row is greater than 0 and our column is greater than 0, then we'll set the upper left to equal basically our matrix our matrix row minus 1, column minus 1. All right, so again, this is just basically saying if you're past the very first one, then we kind of need to set our upper left to whatever the whatever is in our matrix, and our matrix is going to be basically the row. It's going to be like one below and up. That's why we have the 1 there. It's going to be basically right where we're at right now with the row and the column, but 1 behind it and up. So that's what we have there. That'll set the upper left correctly for us. And of course, if row is equal to 0 and column is equal to 0, then upper left can stay 0 because that's fine. That's going to be the very first one. And then we're going to have our matrix here with our row and our column. And that is going to be set basically to 1 plus the upper left. And then from there, we're going to do one more if statement that is basically just going to see if that row, if the place that we are at currently in the matrix is greater than our max number, then we're going to basically make that our new max number. So the very first time that you find a matching pair, it's going to change the max number from 0 to 1, and then eventually you'll get a 2 and a 3 depending on how many of your strings, how many matching values you have in your string. So we do one more that's just going to do matrix, row and column. Now that the matrix row and column has already been set to 1 plus the upper left, we're going to compare it to see if it's greater than the max number. And then if it is the max number, that's where we can, if it is greater than the max number, that's where we can basically start changing the value of our max number to be our matrix row and column. And then again, same thing for our number row. We want to make that equal to row, and our number column, we're going to make that equal to our column. All right. So that's pretty much what we got there. Now the last thing we will do is just an else statement, and we will set that, basically set our matrix row and column to 0 if it doesn't have any matching values. So it'll go through, and basically if it matches, we will go into this spot here. If there are no matches, that's fine. We just set it 0 and we move on to the next one. And that is, whoops, I want to set it to 0. Don't forget that. Now, after we have that, we are basically ready to do our return statement. Okay, actually, no, we want to set up the start of our index so that when we print out what we're trying to do, it'll actually print out the whole substring. So from here, we will have basically the start of substring, and we will set that equal to our max number. No, our max number, our number row is actually what we want. So number row, and that's going to be minus the max number plus 1. All right, and then we can do our return statement, which is going to return our string, our substring, and the way that it returns our substring is basically just going to be pulling from our first string. So it's going to take the first string, but it's going to start at um, that start of the substring right there, and it's going to go up until that basically that number column plus 1. I think that's pretty much it. So let's go ahead and see if we did this correctly. And we will just go ahead and do longest common substring and just say hello. And we will pass it, I don't know, maybe like Jello. Something so that we have some matching stuff in there. I have this on the correct, I think I changed these settings. So I'll make sure I'm on the right one. Longest common substring, that is what we want. Apply, okay. So it should run this file, and we should get it to print out basically ELLO. Oop. All right, so I just forgot to add a print thing here. It's not printing it. Go ahead and run that. All right, and there we go. We have LO. All right, so one thing I did want to cover was if we're doing it in this manner where we're basically trying to have a rectangle matrix and we're going from top left, sorry about my green screen, it's going crazy right now. But anyway, if we're doing it like that, then we can do it with a shorter substring, a shorter string. The first string can be shorter, but however, if I switch these around and I make the first one longer, then pretty much what's going to happen is you're going to have it's not going to be like a rectangle anymore. It's going to be it's going to be kind of weird, and you're going to see that it doesn't actually give you the full substring. It only gives you this L, and that's because the length of the first versus the second one. But there is also there's a way to make this whole algorithm a little better and a little more streamlined. So I'm going to show you guys how to kind of make this a little better. So what we're going to do is, it's almost the same. We're just going to make a few changes. The first change we're going to do is to where we had this matrix and we amended all these numbers to it. So instead of doing that, we are going to actually just set our matrix, and they're actually going to have this to just a matrix row, and we are going to initialize it to a 0 times the length of the second string. So we're just going to have one row. We're not going to do we're not going to keep track of the whole matrix for this one. And then all we need is that max number again, but then we just need the max row. We don't actually need to keep track of columns this time. And then for this one, again, we do the for row in range of our first string. And then we are going to have our, pretty much like our upper left is going to be started here inside of our row. And then we'll have our column, and we are going to, inside of this column here, before we start our if statement about trying to match the rows and the columns of or before we start matching the strings, we're basically going to have like a saved value. So we'll just do saved value, and this is going to keep track of our matrix row column, and that's just going to keep track of it as we go through. And then, all right, so we added our upper left, we added this, and we changed that around. Now our if statement is going to look pretty much very similar. We have our first and our second string with the rows and columns, and we're just basically matching those. Now what we want to do after that is set up our matrix row, our matrix row column, and that's going to be equal to 1 plus the upper left if we find a match. So the matrix row column here, this, hold on, I'm just going to erase all of this so we don't get confused. We're going to go ahead inside of this if statement, do one more if statement, and just do if the matrix row column, now that we just set it, equal to 1 plus the upper left. So if that is greater than our max number, then we will set our max number equal to our matrix row column, and then we will set our max row, or number row is what I called it, sorry, our number row here, which is basically just the max number row. So I think maybe I will do like, I'll do max number row just to make that a little bit more clear. And we're going to set that equal to row. That way we can keep track of what row this max number was in. And then after that, it's still just going to basically set our matrix row column to 0 if we don't find a match. And then after that, see, we still have our upper left over here, which was set to 0 when we entered this. And then after our else statement, once it goes through everything, we are going to have it set our upper left equal to that current, that basically that saved value right here. So we have this saved value, which is the current matrix row column that we're in, and we're going to save that value as our upper left after we go through and do all of our operations. And then after that, this start of the substring is still going to be very, very similar. This is going to have basically, it's going to be the max number row minus our max number plus 1, so pretty similar. And then what it's going to return is, again, very close to what we had before, except this time we're not doing columns. We are going to be doing the max value, or the max number row. So max number row plus 1. So this is basically just a way to kind of streamline it a little bit. This still has the same space-time complexity. However, it does provide some savings as far as memory is concerned. So then if we run this, you can see that now it gives you LLO. The other thing I believe it does fix is what I just showed you guys with the other one, where one string is longer or shorter than the other. It gives you issues. That kind of just goes away when you do it this way. So that is another thing that is kind of nice about doing it this way versus the first way I showed. So I think that's pretty much it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed this. Hope you guys learned some things. I hope I did okay job of explaining it. This is still very fresh for me. I'm just learning it now, and I like to make these videos just to try to explain it to you guys, and that kind of helps me process the information better. But again, I'm not I'm not probably the expert on these, so I hope I did an okay job of explaining everything. If you guys have questions, leave me some comments, um, and let me know if you guys found this helpful.